You're listening to The Hurt Locker, the podcast that opens the door on men's mental health. And for tonight's guest, not in usual attire, so we'll call him Benjamin Bello. Benjamin, welcome to The Hurt Locker.
How are you? It's good I've heard so much about your podcast. I am so excited to be here.
We're happy to have you here, seriously. We're happy to have you here. But let's get to matters pressing at this moment. Let's talk about Kemi.
Okay, let me start by saying that I am a Nigerian, a British Nigerian who identifies and is proud to identify as a Nigerian.
Okay.
I do enjoy the fact that I have the opportunity, God has blessed me to have the opportunity to enjoy two cultures, the British way of life and the Nigerian way of life. I'm fully aware of the comments Kemi has been making over a number of years, and most recently, the comments about not identifying as a Nigerian. I genuinely believe that Kemi is going through some kind of trauma. And when I mean trauma, I mean there's clearly something that's happened while she was in Nigeria that makes her want to deassociate herself from being Nigerian. And the Nigerians out there who would say that she's not Nigerian, she's Yoruba. I have this running,
What does that mean?
So Yoruba is a tribe in Nigeria.
No, I'm Yoruba.
Yes, I'm Yoruba too. So there's a view that Nigeria is not working. There's a view that before colonization, Nigeria was broken into different tribes, and we had our own way of. Do you get what I'm saying? So there are people who believe in independence for those tribes. So you've got the Igbo people who are pushing for Biafra. You've got the Yoruba kingdom who are, because there's just a view that Nigeria is not working as a whole, and you could have a debate about that. So there are people who are basically saying that what she means is that she's Yoruba, she's not Nigerian, and there are people who are very strong, have strong opinions about not wanting to be Nigerian and wanting to be Yoruba, Igbo, because it's in my view, this is all part of the knock-on effects of colonization and the fact that people have been forced to live together and to embrace a new nation, that has been around for well over 60 years.
Yes.
So I'm not making excuses for her. I think there's freedom of speech and people are entitled to what they want to say. What I would say is this in terms of trauma, is that Kemi and I have one thing in common, and it's only one thing in common. The fact that we both grew up under dictatorship rule, okay? And some people, the way they deal with their trauma is to become leader of the Tory party. But for someone like me, I end up performing in uniform as President Obonjo, telling jokes. Yeah? And I really do mean that, because even before she came into the scene, I always wanted to understand, why did I wake up one morning and decide that, okay, fine, I want to create this character, and that character is in uniform, and I want to be telling jokes. For me, it's the effect of when I was growing up in Nigeria, I grew up under dictatorship rule. So my idea of leadership is one who is in uniform. Does that make sense? Yeah. So when Obama, for example, was having issues with the Republican Party, I said to myself, oh, but Obama is Kenyan. What would an African president do? He will become a dictator. He will change the constitution, and he will be, much firmer with the Republicans. And that's why we now have Obama. We now have Trump, because in my view, America was in shock about electing this first black president, and now they want to reverse that by having the orange man. But not to digress. Yeah, in my view, Kemi is going about it the wrong way. I think Kemi should have diversity is our strength, and that she should be drawing on the experience that she had in Nigeria. And like it or not, as much as she wants to get away from being Nigerian, that country shaped her one way or the other, has had an influence on her. As I understand it, she was born in England, but went back at a very young age and didn't come back until the age of 16. Yes. My background is I was born in Liverpool, and I went back at the age of 5. And from the age 5 to 19, I was in Nigeria before coming back into England. So if she's talking about trauma, she's not talking about trauma, but if that's what's the driving force, then someone like me should be able to talk about trauma in my. So that's basic, or rather, maybe she's had maybe that she had an ex-boyfriend in Nigeria who broke her heart, and that's why she dislikes Nigeria. Yeah, exactly. So it's rather unfortunate, because she has really, in my view, for a black woman, even though she might not think she's black, she has really succeeded. In terms of opportunities, she's risen through the ranks. How she's done it, let's not worry about that. But she's there, and I'm not aware of that. There are not many Nigerians who are passionate about her, who are backing her up. There are lots of Nigerians who are just really upset with her, because every time she opens her mouth, it's almost like she is speaking for white people, and that is rather unfortunate. But she's entitled to her opinion. However, this is what I said to people, especially Nigerians. I said, we're wasting a lot of time debating about what Kemi is actually saying, because underneath it, perhaps what we need to do is we need to run against her to unseat her. There's no point debating on social media what she said and so on and so forth. This is an opportunity for us to all get into politics, and just show a different side of, because my understanding is that she said she went into politics because she wanted to change that stereotype of Nigerians. She made a promise that she was going to improve the image of Nigerians, because she was fed up with the stereotyping about Nigerians, email, 419, fraudsters, and she wanted, that's my understanding. She has to ask herself whether she's doing that
still
now.
on that path. Yes.
In that path, and whether she's doing herself any justice, because for someone like Kemi, young black women should be looking up to her, but they don't. Yeah. They don't. I genuinely think that the people that they look up to is the likes of Diane Abbott, who's recently been suspended from the Labour Party. Those are the people that I think young women are looking up to, rather than Kemi Badenoch. And It's unfortunate, because she might want to reject the fact that I'm not there to represent black people. Obama said something similar. I'm not there to represent black people. I'm not there to represent white people. I'm there to represent the United States of America. I know it's a different environment, but I just get the impression that she's been planted there, just like Suvela Braverman, just to speak on behalf of white people, and it's rather unfortunate.
Thank you for that. You said you grew up in Nigeria from 5 to 16. Whereabouts in Nigeria?
So I was in Lagos. Lagos was a state capital at the time.
Yes. Whereabouts in Lagos?
Yaba.
Yaba. I don't know Yaba.
Yaba is It's how best to describe it. I have not been in Nigeria for a long time now, but Yaba is definitely in Lagos. It's I don't know how best to describe it, whether it's on the western part of Lagos or southern, but it's definitely in Lagos. It was a popular area in Lagos. Yeah.
Okay. Benjamin, welcome on the hit, like I said. There's so many things. Maybe no, let's just stay with Nigeria for this moment in time, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
I too, born in Liverpool. You know, I too was born in Liverpool, as you can tell from the accent. And I think my thoughts about Nigeria, I've got a number of thoughts about Nigeria. Back in 1979, as a country, 1 naira was equivalent to £1, 25 pence sterling. Now, £1 is equivalent to 1,300 naira. The country itself, with all its resources, its crude oil, probably got the 6th, 7th largest supply of crude oil anywhere in the world. People could argue that it's a failed state, it's a failed country. What are your thoughts on that?
So this is what I would say to you, and I want to go back to the Kemi issue, because as much as we do not like what she says about Nigeria, there is an element of truth in what she says about leadership and in terms of how corrupt the nation is. And that's why I disagree with some of our Nigerian people, because if Nigeria was great, what are we doing here? You know, what are we actually doing here? You know, that basically is key. We know the former president of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari,
yes,
and several other Nigerian politicians, they don't fix the health system, but they come here to get treated. Yeah, I'd like to see one day, I'm sure it's not going to be in my lifetime, where a prime minister from Great Britain comes to use the medical facilities in Nigeria. Yeah. So Nigeria is a missed opportunity in terms of leadership, in terms of catering for its people. It's one of many reasons why I left Nigeria, because I was just so disillusioned about where we were going as a country. And if you have a conscience, and I mean a conscience, because what most Nigerians do, especially in Nigeria, is they really hero worship people who have money.
I know.
They really need to understand that we've got to put these people to account. We've got to get politicians accountable. You know, so, but at the same time, there is hope. And when I say there is hope, I want to use the Afrobeats as an example. I'm sure you probably listen to Afrobeats, okay? And if our leaders were clever enough, because when I was growing up in Nigeria, my father wouldn't even let me listen to Fela.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. He wouldn't let me listen to Fela, you know, because he just thought that he was a rebel. Yeah.
Yeah.
He wouldn't even let me, we didn't speak Yoruba in our home. We were almost treated like middle class, because he spent some time in Liverpool, almost like middle class children. Yeah. And for me, that was really a missed opportunity. But the point I'm trying to make is this: everywhere I go to, even if I'm in an English village, gigging somewhere in an English village, someone is playing Afrobeat music. Yeah. So there are lessons to be learned, that if we can get Afrobeats into the mainstream circuit, where it's so popular and people are making money, but it's just so popular, why can't our politicians do the same in terms of governance?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Because when we talk about the Western world, look at the state of America as an example. The last election, not the last election, the one before, Trump was kicking a fuss about whether that election was legit. There are so many African countries now where transition has been smooth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Ghana,
Yeah.
Nigeria. Yeah, we have our challenges. So there is a real opportunity for us to demonstrate good leadership, good governance, and show the West how to do it.
Absolutely.
However,
go on.
There is. I mean, the risk because I follow Nigerian news. Apart from just trying to get in touch with what's happening, but also in terms of comedy. The next election, as I understand it, is not happening until 2 or 3 years from. They're already talking about who should run to become president. There are politicians are moving from one party to the other, getting ready. And I'm saying to myself, and it's impressive because that's their vision. Their vision is, we want to know who the next president is going to be. So we're planning ahead. Why can't you do the same in terms of catering for your people, in terms of hospitals, the basic things that we take for granted where we're here? So that's why I believe there's hope. I just genuinely believe that the people who are in power are not necessarily the people who should be representing the citizens of Nigeria.
I think there's something to be said in that. There is hope there, particularly because I stand corrected, but I think 3/4 of the population is under the age of 30.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings with it new ideas, innovative ideas, a fresh way of thinking. And I do know that there isn't a Nigerian diaspora that goes back on a regular basis, that works in Britain, works across Europe, and flies back and puts back into the country. But it's not perfect, but I think lessons could be learned of another country like South Africa.
It's not even South Africa. People keep talking about Dubai. We just need to get our look. There is a view that there are just too many people in Nigeria. Currently, 200 million. That is a large amount of people.
Well, it's a quarter of the African continent, isn't it?
Yeah. And then we need genuinely. If you remember you had the old USSR, and they split up into several states. Let's not get precious and sensitive about the fact that Nigeria was created 60 years ago and it might not be working. Yeah, we have the resources are not evenly distributed. Look at the Igbo people, for example. Yeah, we can't ignore that. So if at the end of the day, and this is not going to be very popular, if at the end of the day, there is recognition that it's not working, don't force people, let people break up into several states or whatever you want, several countries, whatever it is. Just do what you need to do to meet the aspirations, because Nigeria is a time bomb waiting to explode. There's no two ways about it. There are lots of hungry people out there, and they will find a way, one way or the other, because what are we doing with old generation? Look, we need young, dynamic people. Yes. What are we doing with people? And this is not age discrimination, but you've been in politics. Get some young people in with fresh ideas. And that's why I was using Afrobeats as an example. But if someone had said to me, when I was listening to the likes of Michael Jackson and the likes of Shalama and all these African-American music, that I would stop listening to that kind of music, that I appreciate Burna Boy, I say, hell no. The Burna Boy will be, I'm in Peckham and I'm listening to Burna Boy. I'm somewhere in a village in Milton Keynes and a white man is playing Burna Boy. Do you get what I'm saying? So those are the glimmers of hope. But it's almost, I'm going to be very brutal. It's either these existing, it's almost like these existing leaders have forgotten what it was like to be under military rule. That's why a lot of young people believe that democracy does not work in Nigeria and that the only way forward is military rule. And that's why you have all those and that's why you have all those West African states like Burkina Faso, Niger. They have become popular. They have become popular. So I don't believe that Nigeria is a lost cause, but I genuinely believe that there needs to be some serious discussion, and the young people need to stop hero worshiping people because of money.
Okay.
It is ridiculous that before an election, people are giving you bags of rice to vote.
Yes. Yes.
Do you understand what I'm saying? That you've lost your vote. And people don't know how to put people, they don't know how to hold people to account. I mean, there's been I don't know if you've been following social media. There have been 2 incidents recently, and I was just laughing my head off. There was one Nigerian musician who stopped a plane from leaving the airport. And there's another person who, it's a long story. He had an altercation. And he had an altercation and literally wanted to stop the plane from leaving, and the woman just got the plane moving. It's a long story. Then there's another incident as well, where a woman was dragged out of the out of the plane, and it was just, and I'm just saying, why is there no rule and order? Why are we so almost really barbaric as a country? As almost like this country shouldn't even exist. It's alien that we don't know the basic things of how to behave towards a fellow human being. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. And the rules and it's I think for us, for you and I and all those Nigerians in diaspora, we know what is right. We have been exposed, and I'm not saying this country is perfect. England is not perfect. They don't want us here. That's another story. But in my view, they're just. The other day, I asked someone. I said, "Okay, you've been living in England for 30 years. If they call you to come into government, will you steal money or not steal money?" And he responded. I said, "I go chopper." And that's where the issue is. Nigeria is not the problem. Nigerians are the problem.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about mental health.
Yeah.
From a Nigerian perspective, having lived there for your formative years,
yeah,
would you say that as Nigerians, mental health is recognized?
I believe it's now being recognized, but never used to be recognized. I mean, there were things that were happening when I was young to uncles and aunties. I had no idea what it was, and the response then from other people was, I don't know if you know this saying, "Oh, it's village people," almost like they have been bewitched, that kind of thing.
Yes.
But I think we should try and make sure that we don't make the same comparisons with the UK. And the reason I say this is because it's only of recent as well that the UK has caught up with mental health issues.
100%.
Yeah, and I don't mean black and white.
It's got a long way to go.
It's got a long way to go, but it's getting better. So yes, in terms of Nigeria, I was quite pleased actually. I saw some articles about mental health awareness in Nigeria. So it's really nice to see that they're moving in the right direction. I mean, simple things. I mean, if you can't have 3 square meals a day, if you can't get to work at a reasonable time, and it's taking you hours to travel from one part of Nigeria to the other to get into work, that will affect your mental health. If you're worrying about where you're going to have your next meal, that will affect your mental health. If you have to bribe to get to where you need to get to, that will affect your mental health. The fact that you might not even have any money will affect your mental health.
Yes.
However, when I was growing up in Nigeria, did I know that? No. But I work in an environment, especially in terms of performing comedy, I see what mental health is all about. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's that environment giving you that exposure. But once again, in terms of Nigeria, I see that as an opportunity. I see, and I'm sure there are mental health experts who are professionals in Nigeria, in England here, who have been able to tap and go to Nigeria and just have seminars and conferences and just try and start that mental health movement. I mean, there are people committing suicide in Nigeria because of the state of the condition of the country. Yeah,
of course.
Yeah,
of course.
That
I know it's in Nigeria. Suicide is still classed as a misdemeanor.
Yeah,
in the sense that, you know, it's the legacy of colonial rule, etc. Most of the Commonwealth countries have adopted British laws, as it were, and then they haven't taken certain ones off. So when I looked into Nigeria, when I looked into its take on suicide, it's still a misdemeanor, whereas in Britain, it decriminalized in 1961. You know, so we've still got a way to go there.
Yeah. So I don't disagree with you, and also don't forget, and that's why it's really important that when we're comparing, the comparison is accurate. Because I remember during the Tony Blair's time, that's when the whole mental health issue thing came up, and there was funding, and then the Tories came, they reduced, you know, and at one point they just didn't want to recognize it. You understand what I'm saying? And all of a sudden, the pandemic came, and there are mental health issues out there as a result of the pandemic. You know,
Absolutely.
And then all of a sudden, exactly. So
it's quite interesting. You prefix the pandemic because just before then was a Savage Javid's brother died by suicide.
Yeah,
you know, and I thought that would be an opportunity for us to a high-profile person in government, access to the leaders of power could make a change. Or at least begin those conversations.
Yeah, but the other point as well is this: at least in England, there's some funding, and you can access certain services to help you with this.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting is that having lived in England for so long, well over 25 years now, because of the way the environment is, there's a sense of isolation. Yeah, even family members, their family. When I say isolation compared to Nigeria, I genuinely think that Nigerians are much friendly compared to the British.
More family orientated, as it were.
Yeah, more family orientated. Yeah. If you're a black person, you're likely to adopt. I don't know. You're likely to adopt a white way of life in the UK. So there are family members who don't see each other for years unless there's a Christmas or what is it called, occasion. However, there are some families who will have monthly meetings. They rotate it, they move it around because they want to talk to they want to feel connected to their family and support one another along the way. So my point is that I don't think there should be any excuse for mental health issues in Nigeria, but I know that a lot of that is to do with the condition and the environment that they're living in.
100%.
Yeah.
Can I ask? You spoke about trauma.
Yeah.
What is your trauma? And added to that, what is your trauma of growing up in the UK?
So a couple of things. So my trauma is, and I don't mind sharing this publicly, my trauma is I come from a broken home. Yeah. So my parents split up when I was very, very young. And I know that affected me. because I ended up in boarding school. And I remember this exact point where, and I've said it to the guys I went to school with, that there will be times when on Sunday, those who had their parents together will have their parents come and visit them on Sunday. I'll be out in the window waiting for my parents, but they had split up. So at times nobody shows up. Yeah,
How was
that's
how
in
was
my.
how was that
That
for you?
was I didn't realize how painful it was until I grew up. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I knew for me, it made me feel different from other people
You
in the
felt
sense
other.
that, I just felt, I'm just there. Well, where's my dad and mom? Nowhere to be seen. But eventually they came, but they never came together because they were, they will remember and then they'll come. Compared to some other families, they will come constantly and in a way, bring provision and all that stuff. Yeah. So I wouldn't say it was neglected. I just felt that love there wasn't the same as someone who came from a background where the parents were together. That's the first point.
Okay.
The trauma also is the fact that I spent 5 years in Liverpool. And then before I knew what's happening, notice I couldn't even influence whatever decision. I didn't even know what was going on. I just saw myself in Nigeria wearing a Beatles outfit in Nigeria from Liverpool. And then I saw all these black faces. Yeah. Imagine I was raised in a white environment, and all of a sudden I'm landed in Nigeria. Nobody said anything to me. You're going back home. I went back home with my parents in the mid-60s. And then I'm seeing all these uncles and aunties with tribal marks and different languages and things. Yeah. And they're telling me I am an Ajebota. And Ajebota is, oh, you're so refined as a black boy. You're English, because of the way you speak. Yeah. Once again, where do you fit in? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you feel different, because you sound
Yeah.
different. You look different. Your mannerism is different.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's trauma number 2. Trauma number 3, which is what I think reflects on my comedy, is on the dictatorship. The fear of switching on TV and the screen goes blank because there's been a coup. Yeah. I remember vividly when Muritala Muhammad, who was the head of state, was assassinated. I don't know how old I was. I just noticed that day that there was just darkness across the whole country. I switched on the TV. They made the announcement that he'd been assassinated. TV stations in the dark. And then throughout that period, from Muritala Muhammad up until Babangida Abacha. Yeah. Can you imagine? Yeah. And then I arrived here at the age of 19, another trauma. And that trauma was more about the fact that when I was in Nigeria, I had no idea I was black. Nobody looked at me differently. I had no idea I was black. And I arrived at the age of 19, first racist incident, I remember it very vividly. And then the Stephen Lawrence's and the, look. So it's important that we, they say we're prisoners of our background. So it's important to talk about these things because, in my view, when we do, because I could easily suppress all this stuff. Yeah. So right now, I used to live in Stratford.
Yeah.
I now live outside London. Yeah. And it's predominantly a white neighborhood. And I know that one of the reasons why I've been able to do that is because of my earlier years living in a white neighborhood. Yeah, so that was registered in my head. Yeah, I was living in Liverpool. So not that there's anything wrong in living in Brixton or Camberwell or living in London, but I knew that that wasn't the environment that I wanted to be in. Doesn't mean that I was rejecting my people, but it's that we are prisoners of our own background.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Yeah, we're just real prisoners of our own brand. So these things define us, and it's registered in our respective heads.
Does it feel safe where you live?
Yeah, it does. It does. I would admit that. Yeah, it does. It feels safe. And I'm not suggesting that London is not safe, but there are times when I go into London and I'm just look, mate. Even when I arrived where I was, I didn't realize that there will be Black people who don't want to talk to Black people.
Mm.
Yeah, because they're married to white people. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong in interracial relationships. It's just, I just thought, oh, wow, I'll be able to connect with because there are not many of us around. But actually, I was totally shocked. But, hey, don't come to my territory. I thought I was going to be the only Black person here. And trauma is also then meeting other Black people who didn't particularly have the same mindset, because so if you were living in London and you've lived in London all your life, you don't know what it's like to live outside London.
Mm.
Do you get what I'm saying? So,
I do.
So it's not that you question your identity, but it's more about how you draw from those experiences.
Of course,
in my view, that makes you a better person. So, yeah, that's that.
How have you dealt with your traumas? Comedies, okay.
Yeah,
we've had loads of comedians on here, and it's so interesting. It's fascinating for me that you make people laugh, but inside, there's like a slow death going on. Because
I wouldn't say it's a slow death. I wouldn't say it's a slow death. I think it's a powerful gift for you to be able to perform comedy, go into a room full of strangers.
No, not that part. I think what I'm trying to explain is that I think sometimes the internal crisis that's going on internally hasn't been purged, but comedy itself is a way to provide an alter ego of how you would like to be seen.
Yeah, and that is exactly how I see that, because the reason think about it, not thinking about it, some stuff that I've reflected on. So I created this character about 15 years ago, President Obonjo, okay? And I sound very different when I am on set. I sound like a typical African, and this is not stereotyping, typical African leader, yeah? All this British accent is gone, absolutely gone. And when I was thinking about it over the years, I just thought, why didn't I just perform as myself and the way I sound? Why did I decide to create this character? And it was because I wanted to get back to my roots. Yeah, I wanted to get back to my belonging. But actually, reminding myself that actually, yeah, I've had these experiences of living in both being British and being Nigerian. But actually, I am a Nigerian. You know, there's no two ways about it. No matter what my experiences are, I am a Nigerian, and I should have a Nigerian voice on stage. It's that simple. Is that my way of dealing with my trauma? Wow, I feel alive whenever I'm on stage.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying I don't feel alive when I'm talking to you now or just when I'm off stage, but wow, just the whole idea that this is my opportunity to showcase, this is really who I am. This is where I've come from. This is my roots, and you need to hear the African voice. Yeah, I'm not, and there's nothing wrong, but I'm not a black person who was raised in South London. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Yeah? I'm not a black person who was raised in North London. I was raised in Nigeria. I was raised in Africa. And in that sense, because I just felt, I needed to just draw back a little bit. Yeah.
That sense of pride is important.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes growing up in this country, you can lose that identity. You know?
And it's not intentional. It's not intentional because
it's more about assimilation to fit in.
Yeah.
And I've even heard it here myself in Liverpool when people will talk about somebody and call him African Peter, even though he's lived in the city for a long time.
I'll give you an example. I used to work somewhere where I believe in branding. I believe that whatever you wear speaks volumes. So one day I decided that I got fed up of wearing ties like this from Marks and Spencer and so I got some what you call Kente. I'm sure you know Kente, Ghana. Yeah. I wore one and I went to work on the Monday morning in a very conservative organization where you hardly had black people. I mean, what do you think the response was? I was surprised by the number of people. It was such a large organization. I was surprised by the number of people, because we're not based in the same office, by the number of people who said, "Wow, have you seen what Ben is wearing?" All I was wearing was an African Kente tie, similar to this, but just designed in African, Ghana.
Yes.
And someone came to me and said, "Oh, wow, that is a very bright tie." I said, "Yes, it is a very bright tie." "Oh, where's it from?" "Oh, it's from Ghana." And someone said, "Oh, I thought you joined the Nation of Islam." I said, "No, I haven't joined the Nation of Islam, mate. However, let me say this to you. When you buy bright ties from M&S, do I ask you, 'Wow, that is a really bright tie. Are you now a Christian?'"
Those overt undertones of race. And racism.
Yeah. Or when you go into an office where you're wearing black, complete black. I used to have someone who would wear black. That's what she wore. Black all the way through. Black wig, everything black. And that's what she wore every day. It was a statement. So it's all these little things and trying to fit in, or you come in, you don't want to have sandwich, you come in with your jollof rice. One day I had enough of just eating sandwich or whatever it is. So I brought the jollof rice, put it in a microwave oven, and I was just cautious of the fact that someone would say, "What's that smell?" But what's that smell? However, that was many, many years ago. Are you aware the number of people now who know about jollof rice around the world?
Loads.
The number of people who know about jollof rice around the world is just fascinating. Fascinating. And that's, for me, that is hope, because it's not something you should be ashamed of. Previously, I'm sure it was. There's nothing wrong in you going into a corporate environment and having your amala with egusi soup and using your hands to eat it.
Go on.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, because doing something else is almost like you want to fit in. Yeah.
Yes.
And when we talk about mental health, we have so many people who are not authentic in their environment. They can only be themselves when they're at home. They can't be themselves when they're in an office environment. And that is a mental health issue, as far as I'm concerned, because it's almost like I have this running joke that people have split personalities. Either they show their personality when they're with their wives and their children, but when they get into work, it's a different environment from how they speak, how they sound, how they behave. And if you do that constantly, and you're not being yourself and your authentic self, it affects your mental health. It affects your mental health. So it's all these, would I have been able to talk about this 20 years ago? No. But the more I exposed myself,
why not?
So I wasn't aware. I wasn't aware.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But now I'm fully aware, and that's the beauty of performing comedy. It just exposes you to all sorts of things and environments and everything that you take for granted. It's just, I'll go to a place, a village somewhere, and I arrive at that village, and I might be the only Black person who is at that village. And I recognize that I'm the only person in that village, but I'm there to perform, to make them laugh. This is my opportunity. I wonder what it was like for the likes of Sammy Davis Jr. All those, who were playing to white audiences and wouldn't see Black people yonks. If they were going on tour.
I remember I heard a story about the Rat Pack, as it were. Sammy Davis Jr., Sinatra, etc. And they were going to perform in this grand hotel. And the manager said Sammy Davis Jr. couldn't stay there, couldn't sleep there that night. So Frank Sinatra said, well, if he's not sleeping here tonight, we're not playing here.
Yeah.
Within our community, the Black and brown communities, we don't necessarily reach out for support. We've got this, particularly amongst men, we've got this stoic.
Sorry, go on.
It's okay.
Yeah.
We've got this stoic behavior that we've just got to carry on and not reach out for support. If people in your family were struggling with their mental health, what would you do for them?
I'll be there. I think I'm more aware that people might be facing mental health issues. I will be there for them. But I think you have to be very, very careful in terms of how you provide that support. And do you understand what I'm saying? Because their catchphrase is like, if you know someone is not doing great as a friend, and you say, you got this, or there's light at the end of the tunnel and all that stuff. We have to be careful with our language. We have to put people in a position where we have to put ourselves in a position where people can actually open up.
Yes.
And there's some questions that you can ask. But I genuinely think in order to provide that support, you either have had that experience of a mental health breakdown, or you are aware of you have an awareness of how to provide that support.
What about yourself? Have you ever had to reach out for support?
I think there was a period in my life where I was going through a lot. And this was when I was younger. I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. Did I reach out? No, I didn't, because I came from an environment where, hello, yeah, you should be a man, and you must fight it. Yeah. But when I realized that it was okay to be able to show your emotions, it was okay to express yourself, it doesn't mean that you're weak, then yeah. But when I was younger, hell no. Would I approach anyone to say, I just bury myself in some booze or have some girlfriends. Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah.
I love the fact that you've experienced both cultures, immerse yourself in both cultures, and you
Yeah.
see it for what it is. You know, I love that. I love the fact that you're
And,
Nigerian.
yeah, and for me, it's for me to protect my mental health.
Say more
Yeah,
about
it
that.
is. So I genuinely think that, I can't pretend to be who I am not. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
I have gone through that process when I arrived in this country, trying to fit in, and I wasn't comfortable. You
it was
know,
a departure from who you actually were.
but yeah, I just genuinely think that you have to be authentic, and this is who I am. I'm not going to go into an environment where there are lots of Eton and Oxford graduates, as an example, and try and sound Eton that you're from Eton. Yeah, I'm not. That is not my background.
Yes,
I went to a secondary school in Nigeria. I am different. There's nothing wrong in being different. It is a strength. It is not a weakness.
absolutely.
Do you
Absolutely.
understand? That's why over the years I've been for well over 10, 15 years, I've been in a happy place. I've been in a happy place because I am being myself. If you don't understand me, if you think because I don't sound
Like you.
it's not
Yeah.
really, yeah, it's not really interesting how, for example, when you look at the House of Commons and how they all sound and the way they express themselves. Yeah. And I'm copying them now. Like David Lammy. Yeah.
Oh my God. Hasn't he changed?
He's changed.
Hasn't he,
Yeah.
hasn't he
And,
changed so much?
yeah, exactly. How many, there are Africans who are in the House of Commons. But they don't sound African, do they? My lord. Yeah. I tell you what, I'm going to give you an example. So when I arrived in 1980 something, when I was doing my A levels, I would put my hand up and ask a question. But because I didn't have my British accent, as I've assimilated, the teacher would always say, sorry, because she couldn't understand me. So I decided what I was going to do, Yinka, was to watch EastEnders. So I watched EastEnders to assimilate. And I started sounding Cockney. What? Then after that, I just thought, no, this is not me. So I did the EastEnders Cockney thing. That didn't work. And I remember my first job was in the city. The first interview for another job, I was told I wouldn't fit in. That's when I realized, it was to do with my accent. So I got another job in the city. I got a job in the city. And when I arrived in the city, you can never ever pretend in terms of who you are. It's impossible. So I went to do this presentation in front of a group of colleagues and I got the job. And I was talking like them. Hey, business strategy, blah, 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 blah. The Nigerian in me just came up with, oh. And so they said, what was that? I said, no, nothing. That is when I realized, Inka, you got to be yourself because
Absolutely.
you will be find out.
100%.
I can't believe I went to a business meeting and there was nothing wrong with it. But I wanted to emphasize a point. And I said, strategy O, because, Nigerians use that O. That was the day I realized, Yinka, that, look, nah, I got to be myself. I got to be myself.
And people will either accept you or not. And you know what?
Exactly.
I know you have to go soon, so I'm going to ask you the question. Who's the most important person in your life?
Right now? Oh, yes. Wow. I have to be very careful so I don't upset anyone.
You can only pick one person.
Ooh. Most important. It's difficult. I'd rather not answer that. I'd rather not answer that.
Let me answer it for you then. Benjamin, you're the most important person in your life because you're the expert of you. You know what makes yourself happy. You know what makes yourself sad. And only by attending to your needs, first and foremost, can you be fully there for the people who you love and care for. Yeah. And imagine if you took care of business for you. Imagine how much more richer, textured and layered that love and care would be for those people who are important in your life.
Yeah, that's a good one. I never thought it that way, but it's that the African way is that you choose someone apart from yourself.
Yeah,
I'm going to leave you with this. Someone said to me, "What's the most important job that you? What job do you do? What do you do for a profession?" And I think it's very similar to what you said. And I always respond, and I will always respond that the most important job in life is being a full-time human being, managing the relationships with your friends, with your wife, with your children, with your father-in-law, mother-in-law. Forget the job titles, colleagues at work. That for me is a full-time job. Just being a human being is a full-time job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Benjamin Bello, thank you for being on The Hurt Locker.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Yinka. It's been, and I'll say I'm jealous. Let me tell you why I'm jealous. I've always wanted to use the Liverpudlian accent in my comedy, but I can't do it. I can't because I can't. I just can't because so I have this running joke that, I was born in Liverpool because people don't believe I was born in Liverpool. I say I was born in Liverpool, but I can't speak the accent because I went back to Nigeria. They polluted me with African food. That's why I lost the African accent. But who wants to sound like Celia Black? But I just love this is really fascinating in terms of meeting Black people who have an accent that's different from mine. I just find it really fascinating. The other day I went to Ireland and I saw this Black man and sounded so Irish. I was rolling on the floor. Do you understand what I'm saying? I was just literally rolling on the floor. So when you spoke earlier on, I didn't know you were from Liverpool. I was just, my God, I hate this guy. I wish I could have his accent.
Maybe we'll do a swap then, okay?
No, we'll have to do a swap. I don't know how it's going to work. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Tim, well, thank you for having me. That's a wrap.
Thank you for watching. Remember, you are not alone. If you or someone you care about is struggling with their mental health, please see the contact information in this episode's description for further support.